Live from Death Ray Studios in the sunny West Valley of Phoenix, it's Late Night with the Davey. Appearing on tonight's show, Nick Push and Destiny Faulkner. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Davey Death Ray. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Death Ray here with another episode of Late Night with the Davey. How is everyone doing on this lovely Wednesday early evening? Well, early evening for me. And holy crap, I got to tell you guys, it is friggin' hot out here in the Phoenix area. I think it topped off at about 107 today. Guys, let me know where you're at and if it's ridiculously hot yet. I'm always curious to know that kind of stuff. And yeah, guys, this is the fourth installment of the late night show here. And, you know, we're having some tweaks, just making some adjustments, making some appropriate changes. So, you know, in the first few episodes, we had 3 guests. And I just kind of realized, like, man, not only are these episodes running a little long, but also, you know, once that conversation kind of starts going, I didn't want to really cap it off with most of my guests. So initially I was asking people for like 20 or 30 minutes. And it seems like, you know, most of the time when you agree to go on someone's live stream, it's like, what's the difference between 30 minutes and like 45 minutes? So it all depends on if you have enough to talk about. So yeah, made a little adjustment here to just bring on 2 guests, get to know them a little bit better, and, you know, get to spend a little more time with them and have you guys interact a little bit more here. So what's happening, everyone in the chat? Holy crap, we just started and we already have 16 people here in the chat. So let me say what's up to everyone. You guys are amazing. This is absolutely incredible. In fact, why don't I just start off the show before jumping into saying hello to everyone, just to thank you guys for all the amazing support so far. You know, we don't even have 700 subs, but it's like every time we pop on live, you know, we usually have something planned. It's not just random, and you guys show up in droves. At least for me, that's the way I see it, because to have 17 people in here right now is incredibly awesome. Thank you guys so much. I say it all the time, but you guys are the shareholders. I'm just the CEO, and the channel is nothing without y'all. So thank you so very much. And yeah, let's say what's up to everyone. We got Good Real Hunting in the house. What's happening, Brett? And we've got Cheesy Corn Pop. How goes it, Cheesy Corn Pop? Love that icon so much. Little Dave McRae and Vincent DeSanti action there with Freddie and Jason. Such a great little shot they put together. We've got Raymond Malabar. Hey, Davey, let's have some fun tonight, man. Yeah, I plan on it. Let's have a kick-ass time every single time we hop on here, right? Hell yeah. And we've got Tommy Quinn. I think Tommy Quinn is new to the chat. I haven't seen you in here before, Tommy. Welcome. If it's not your first time, then smack me around a little bit in the chat there and tell me that I'm wrong. Always interested in knowing if I've missed you before, but welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This guy, Davey Death Ray, have no idea who he is. I've heard terrible things. I've heard all this guy does is talk. We've got Trisha McMasters. Welcome to the live chat, Trisha. Man, been seeing you interacting so much on the posts, drop in the comments. It really helps out, you know, just to have that engagement. And it's great because we get to know each other a little bit more through that interaction there in the comments. So it's great. We've got Antonis Andriotis in the chat. What's happening, Antonis? One of our awesome patrons here at the channel. We've just got 3 and I love them so much. Putting together a movie review for Bride of Chucky for Antonis. That's his request. So keep an eye out for that later on this month. We've got Blu-ray Addict in the chat. What's happening, Blu-ray? Welcome. Matt Facci in the house. Davey, you sexy SOB. Yeah, Matt, you know, maybe it just is working out perfectly that I still get to watch you tomorrow, do your 4-year celebration. Everybody give Matt Facci some love in the chat. He's celebrating 4 years on YouTube tomorrow, and he's going live to talk about some horror hot takes. So I'm interested in checking that out. Absolutely. I love what Matt does over at his channel. If you don't follow Fatchy Cinema, if you're not subscribed over there, hop on over, give it a sub, and then pop right back on over here into the chat. We got Brett saying what's up to everyone. Of course, also, if you haven't subbed to Good Real Hunting, what are you doing? How did you find me? If you didn't find me through those guys, I'm always interested to know. We've got Gory Tiger in the chat. What's happening, Gory? Good to see you. I love you got the same emojis every time you say what's up. It's awesome. You got your like signature welcome to the chat. Super cool. Love that. Absolutely. All right. And who else do we have here? We've got Tyler Adams. What's happening, Tyler? Good to see you, bud. Great to see you. How's everyone's week going? Let me know. Maybe I'm missing out on that because I'm taking forever getting through the welcomes here. We've got Ryan Olashow in the chat. What's happening, Ryan? Let's see here. 85 in New Jersey today, says Vanderhoff. Yeah, that's pretty warm, and it's probably relatively humid, I would imagine, out in Jersey. I mean, you're close enough to the water that it's probably, relatively humid a lot of the time. And let's see here. I think that, oh my gosh, the chat just keeps on growing. You guys are amazing. We got Chud's Corner in the chat. What's happening, Chad? Great to see you, bud. Great to see you. Aaron Click in the chat. This is amazing. This just keeps on popping off. 23 people in the chat. What happened? What happened? Did I finally arrive? Oh my gosh. Look out, world. We've got Ashton Luck in the chat. What's happening, Ashton? Great to see you, my man. Great to see you. And everyone just still saying what's up to each other. This is the great thing about the YouTube community, guys, is, you can sort of get lost in the chat just making a new friend. It's really cool. So not only can you sit there watching the person that you tuned in for, but you can develop relationships outside of just being strictly an audience member, right? It's really cool. It goes beyond just watching a television show. I think one of the things that attracts people like us to YouTube is, you get to watch somebody that's kind of real. You get to see the mistakes, the flubs, all that kind of stuff. Certainly there are people on YouTube that are more polished than others, of course, but I think that's kind of the charm, right? And then the other side of that is being able to be an interactive audience. When you watch a TV show or watch a movie, you're just kind of sitting there. But this is the great part about YouTube, is getting to make friends with everyone. We've got Gary Blue Wolf 87 in the chat. What's happening, Gary? Great to see you, bud. Hope life is treating you well. And yeah, man, let me know how everything is going. We've got Dude Who Loves Movies. What's happening, Cody? Don't forget to roundhouse kick that like button. Hell yeah. Thank you for reminding me and everyone else, Cody. Appreciate it. If you haven't hit the like button, what are you doing? Yeah, man, this is amazing. People just keep on chat and want to make sure I'm not missing anyone. We've got Mud Nelson Gavin in the chat, one of our lovely patrons here. Watched Intruder for Gavin. That is his patron request review. So going to be putting that together probably tomorrow or Friday for you, Gavin. So wrapping up the editing on my Terrifier 2 review, guys. So keep an eye out for that as well. And we've got Bud from Bud and Blaster. What's happening, Bud? Great to see you in the chat, my guy. Oh my gosh, have I caught up with everyone? Is there anyone new in the chat? Carbonite Dreams. What's happening, Carbonite? Great to see you. Great to see you. All right, I think we are officially caught up, and it only took me like 10 minutes. Nick is sitting there in the waiting room, and he's like, why did I agree to do this guy's show? All this guy does is talk. Who does this guy think he is? Does he think he's Dave McCrae? Because he's at least like 100 IQ points below Dave McCrae. Me, I'm talking about me, not Nick Push. And then we got Tyler Adams. Late Night with the Davey. Got to do it every time. Just think Running with the Devil by Van Halen, but sing Late Night with the Davey. It works. Trust me, people, it works. We got Allie Girl in the chat. What's happening, Allie? I'm glad to see that you've got power back. I work remotely for a company out in Louisiana in the Lafayette area. And man, the power was going in and out over there. They had all sorts of thunderstorms and stuff. And I know that, you're not exactly like right next to that area, but kind of in the ballpark-ish. So hopefully everything's kind of chilled out with the weather there for you, Allie. Yeah, she got her power back. Boom, there it is. Let's see here. Gavin, I gave it a 4.5 on Letterboxd. Are you talking about Intruder? Let me know. I may have totally missed it. Yeah, but guys, oh my gosh, one more. Lamontre in the chat. What's happening, Lamontre? Great to see you in the chat, bud. Holy crap, 21 people in here. You guys are amazing. This is unreal. Real quick, just want to catch you up with what's been going on here at the channel. So yeah, we started this show about a month ago. It's a weekly live late night talk show setup. So we bring on content creators, filmmakers, authors, musicians, people that are creative and are creative either as a serious hobby or maybe they do it for a living. And you know, we just kind of shoot the shit with them, get to know them a bit better. A lot of people that I bring on the show here, like I have never actually talked to, maybe corresponded through direct messages and stuff. So it's great to actually get that interaction with people here in the community. And yeah, other than that, guys, I finally watched the Terrifier movies. So let me know in the chat how ridiculous I am for waiting that long. If you want to know why I waited that long, you can check out the review for the first Terrifier film. I let you know in there. And then, yeah, putting the finishing touches on my Terrifier 2 review that will drop later on this week. You know, I also do like some trailer reaction stuff. I've been getting into franchise rankings lately. And man, the summer's just going to be filled with a whole bunch of collaborations, including, you know, what we do here weekly on the show. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to grab a little sip of water before we bring in our first guest. So everyone, let's take a drink on 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Yeah, Antonis says, you guys are so quick with the chat. Antonis says, hell yeah, Terrifier 2 is my favorite. Tommy Quinn says, can't wait for Terrifier 3. I think I'm, you know, I don't want to give away too much about my Terrifier 2 review, but I feel so much better about looking forward to Terrifier 3 after my experience watching the second film. Because the first movie is like barely a movie. You guys can skewer me in the chat if you want to. I just think that first movie was pretty excruciating. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later tonight. But hold the phone, everyone. Hold the friggin' phone, because we've got Frank Riker in the chat from the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. What's happening, Frank? Great to see you. I will keep the scream talk to a minimum just for you, my man, just for you. We got Jamie Hart in the chat. What's happening, Jamie? And I think we are all caught up. Guys, I will do my best to say what's up to new people as they pop into the chat here. But we've been making him wait a little bit too long here. We've got Nick Push from Nick Push's horror channel in the waiting room here. I can see him just chomping at the bit to get in here. You guys know him for talking a ton of Halloween content. I've been watching this guy for... gosh, it must have been Allie. I think that you turned me on to Nick's channel and let me know about him and a handful of other, you know, horror content creators, because I watch a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube. And so YouTube doesn't always recommend, you know, all that kind of stuff to me. So guys, without any further hold up, let's bring in our guy, Nick Push. Here we go. What's happening, Nick? Great to see you.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. I've seen your guest list, your first few shows, and I'm like, man, this guy's getting all these titans of horror and YouTube, and I'm like, why me? Why me? And now you bring me on with Destiny, who's probably the brains behind Braden Timmons' channel. And I'm just kidding, Braden. I'm just kidding. You're great, but no, I appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been you know, as this whole journey has just been kind of like laying the groundwork, making sure that, you know, I kind of found my voice a little bit, and then, you know, just expanding things from there. So it's been awesome having, you know, just people that I, you know, look up to or really enjoy their personalities, all that kind of stuff. It's just been amazing. And yeah, I really appreciate you coming on as well. I dig what you do over at your channel, Nick Push's horror channel. Link in the description below so you guys can follow. And you guys can also check out Nick's merch shop. I put that link in there as well. Yeah, Nick, so let's talk some horror. You know, you're probably so tired of talking about Halloween, but I feel like I'd just be missing out on something if I didn't, bring it up at least a little bit. But before we get into that, how do you feel about Terrifier?
So I've only seen the first one,
Oh yeah,
and eh,
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
not for me, and
yeah.
I don't know if it's I'm becoming an old man or something, and it's just like, that shock value just doesn't
Hmm.
do it. But I just, at least in the first one, because I've heard the second one is a lot better. So I stand, have my opinion completely swayed.
Yeah.
But the first one, like it was cool, it was shocking, and the death was horrifying. Everyone knows which death I'm talking about.
Hmm.
But after a while, for me, it just kind of got where it was just like, all right, this where's the story? Where's the story?
Yeah. No,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so like I think what they're doing is pretty cool. As far as taking this independent idea, this independent character, and kind turning it into what they've turned it into is pretty awesome,
Hmm.
and that's definitely commendable. But I'll say for the first one, it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I would like a little more story, and maybe when I watch a second one, I'll because I will watch it, but maybe my opinion will start to sway a little bit. But as far as the first one goes, it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
How do you
I'm
feel? I know you were mentioning it a little bit on Sunday, on your afternoon stream on Sunday, but I assume you kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The first movie, it was the longest 84 minutes I've ever watched. And like I watch Mystery Science Theater 3000, so I've seen some like really bad movies. And I can say with all confidence that the first Terrifier is barely a movie. I don't even know if I really consider it a movie. It's kind of like a demo tape of special
Yeah.
effects. But yeah, I feel the same way where it's like, where's the story? For me, I thought one of the things was like, where are the dynamics? And, as both of us being like big time Halloween fans and old school slasher fans, it's like, I don't mind if there's like an off screen kill and then like a couple kills that are like,
Yeah.
holy crap, balls to the wall. And then maybe a couple
Mhm.
kills that are a little shrouded with lighting and shadowing. And like, just like when you listen to a record, it's like maybe you want some like, you want those peaks and valleys. And I felt like Terrifier was just like cranked to 11, like straight through the
Yep.
whole way. Like art is such an attractive character as far as like horror villains go.
Yes.
Like so well done. I really love the soundtrack too by Paul Wiley. I think the music is amazing in the first film. I mean, it's really good in the second film, but yeah, I mean, I'll tell you without blowing my Terrifier 2 review, I felt it was like all the things that I wanted from the first movie, they were able to deliver in the second film.
Oh,
And the fact that it
okay.
was 2 hours and 15 minutes, it actually didn't feel as long as the first movie to me. So,
Wow. See,
and
you said it was 80, the first movie was 84 minutes? Yeah,
80,
I thought
yeah.
it was 2 hours.
Yeah, I was like I was like scrolling through my phone. I'm like, man, this is just yeah,
Yeah.
but same kind
Yep.
of thing where I'm like, am I just an old guy? Like you turn
Yeah.
40, like I'm in my early 40s, and it's like you
Yep.
turn 42, and then you're just sort of like a fuddy-duddy in some stuffed
Yep.
shirt that's like trying to ruin everyone's fun. But I certainly see why it
Yep.
has its fandom. It's and
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that Terrifier 3, if they trim down that time a little bit, Terrifier 3 could be the best one. So
Oh, yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, so let's get into a little Halloween talk, shall we?
Yeah.
So we're taking a big break here from, well, maybe we're taking a big break from Michael. What do as far as like Halloween coming back as a television series, and they're talking about bringing it back like, all the way back to square one. Do you want to see like a period piece that goes back? Do you wish they would just do something different, like kind of anthology series where each season's like a different idea? What would your ideal Halloween TV show be?
Oh man, I don't know. Like obviously, creatively, the best thing for the franchise is probably just to let it die, but we know that's not going to happen. There's money to be there, there's money to be made, right? And
Yeah.
us as fans, just the anticipation of something new is really cool, right?
Hmm.
But as far as television goes, you know, I'm open-minded. I just
Hmm.
don't want to see a Smith's Grove series. I don't want to see Loomis having Myers, and then there's these other patients that are wacky adventures and stuff like that. I don't want to see Loomis trying to stop other evil. The way the first movie is, the way the franchise is, Michael is the one that Loomis saw that made him just, stop believing everything he believed in previously. And that's why he became so obsessed. If Loomis is, dealing with characters like from, American Horror Story in there, it kind of defeats the purpose of what Michael was to him. So I don't want to see that. I don't want to see anything, white trashy like Rob Zombie's,
Oh, no.
I don't know. Like, I'm open-minded where at this point, we have the first movie for us diehards, us, purists, as Dave McCrae kind of turned that phrase pretty popular there, but we have that first movie. So I can go watch that first movie, and have it be what it is. So I'm so open to new ideas here, surprise me. Whatever they do is going to piss people off, right? They could, they could do something completely new that'll piss everyone off. They could do something just like, a shot for shot type thing that'll piss people off. Just surprise me, make it well done, get Myers right, get the mask right, and have it be intriguing, have some mystery to it, and I'm happy. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I'm all for new ideas. I'm all for getting a creative team in there that's going to take it seriously and not disrespect the fans.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's the tough thing with Halloween, right? Because I think what most people love about Michael is the mystery. So it's almost like the more you go back to that beginning, you're just tempted to kind of give it a backstory. I mean, it's what Rob Zombie did in his film. And if they go back to the well, then yeah, I mean, who knows? We just might end up seeing way too much of Michael, too much of that part of the process. I like the way what interests me about him is more like 2018, like following him on that tracking shot, or just seeing like who he decides to let go and who he decides to kill. And like, to me, without knowing like the reasoning behind it, I just find that so incredibly fascinating. So that's like the only like part of the process, I guess, of Michael's that I kind of want to see. I don't want to know the answers. I just want to see him. He's like a shark that like bumps into a wall and then like goes a different direction, and chomps on something over here and then walks over there. It's so I guess I'm hoping for like, well, it's not going to happen, but I'd love to see an anthology that picks up at like all the dead ends. So we get like a legacy, like one season that's a legacy sequel to Halloween 4. And we bring Danielle Harris back and we actually get to see, skip 5 and 6. But you could also do a legacy sequel to H2O and bring Josh Hartnett back. You could do, there's so many like loose ends and dead ends in the franchise that I think it would be kind of fascinating to explore those as like what if scenarios where they just have one season, that's it, and it just puts a cap on it and you move on. And then that way you're not rehashing. But I know that that's not financially in the best interest of the rights holders, for sure.
Yeah. There's definitely opportunities there, creatively, like you say. I mean, you could, do between Halloween 2 and Halloween H2O, and like you said, just have a whole season in the 80s, and you satisfy the the 80s craze where you show people with big hair and stuff like that, and then you have a season wherever. But the problem with the TV series would be, depending on how many episodes and how long the episodes are, you're looking like, even if it's a season, right? That's, and say it's, 40 minutes an episode, you're still looking at, 10 episodes, you're looking at, what is that, 400 minutes, by the time that's a lot of story they would need. And we've seen what happens when they add things to the story. You get the Curse of Thorn, you get him, I can't believe I'm saying this, and this is a real storyline, having sex with his niece. You get all kinds of shit like that. And it's just like, my God, can we just keep it simple, stupid here? But it's also 2024, right? People expect more. That's what Crystal Lake is going through right now. People expect more. And, as much as I would love, like Crystal Lake, I would love it just to be, kind of what Vincent DeSante's doing.
Yeah.
I don't have confidence that the studio is smart enough to do that. So we'll see, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like there's this, trying to reach for something that isn't quite there with slashers, trying, just putting your hands through the mud and trying to find like the diamond in there. It's sort of like we know this property can make us money. We don't really know exactly where we want to go with it, but we want to expand on it. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of options out there. I mean, yeah, with Vin doing what he's been doing, I mean, it kind of blows me away that he hasn't been, invited to have a chat with the folks over there at Horror Inc. But they seems pretty like, they've got the blinders on, doing activations instead of trying to figure out the film rights, which I know is like a total mess and everything. But it seems like,
Yeah.
Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street are just like floundering, while Michael, even though he had a couple of really big breaks, since starting in 78, he's sitting there like with his feet up at the top of Horror Hill, just like ruling the roost, because not only is there tons of great Michael merch out there, but, really good movies still being produced, at least in my opinion. Even if you don't like the story, it's not like the movies aren't incompetent. It's not like, even if you don't like the DGG trilogy, it's not like Resurrection or something,
Right. Yeah. They're well, like even that whole trilogy, like creatively and some dialogue, there's a lot of things that are problematic with it.
Mm-hmm.
But for once we had movies where they actually cared about the final product, they cared about how Michael looked. And, living through, the 90s, or late 80s to early 90s, it's like, holy shit, there's a big difference there. So at least they had that right. So you got to give them some credit. Certain people like just will hate on everything because they didn't like Halloween Ends, and it's just like,
Sure.
hold on a second, you can dislike certain aspects of something and still give credit where credit's due. It wasn't all bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, when I watch Halloween Kills, I'm like, man, the stuff that works for me works so damn well in this movie. And there are some cringy elements as well, of course. Like, I don't know why Tommy repeats almost every line of dialogue. I don't know if that was an acting choice or a directing choice. But I certainly think Anthony Michael Hall is capable of, better than that. But the stuff that works, man, seeing Michael be as brutal as he was is kind of like, it might be one of my favorite depictions of the character. So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. And I think, you're sort of hinting into like, there's like been a loss of nuance when it comes to opinion, or, throwing the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing, which I think it's, even the things that you absolutely love, like you should be fairly critical, about the things that either could have been better or didn't work for you. But yeah, we kind of live in an age now where if you have like one criticism or one gripe, people think that you hated it. I don't know. Did you see that on your channel?
Yeah. Yeah. It's either this or that. When Halloween Ends came out, looking at it on paper, I should hate Halloween Ends. I should hate Halloween Ends. It did this, and this, which I've always said I never want to see. I should hate it, but I didn't. Like, I don't love it. I don't love it at all, but I don't hate it. I hate where it was in the trilogy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
But I kind of enjoyed it. And, I said that straight up on my channel. I lost so many subscribers. I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys, relax a little bit. It's a movie.
People will hold you to that opinion forever. They'll be like, well, you liked Halloween Ends. And I'm just like, yeah, come at me, because I think it's really damn good. Like, and I totally get why people don't like it, but I have a lot of fun watching Halloween Ends. I think you're right though, like what you said about just how it, the spot where it came along in the story, clearly the original vision got kind of mucked up by COVID and all of that kind of stuff. So, they kind of changed course there a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think overall, like when you watch something like Halloween Ends, it is a really interesting character study for Corey and for Haddonfield. It kind of like leans into this idea of maybe how Haddonfield's got some sort of curse on it. Not the curse of Michael Myers, but some sort of curse.
Yeah. It'll be fascinating 20 years from now to see what people think about it, because it could go either way. I think, it could go the Halloween 3 route, or it could go, like Resurrection, right? Where people are still just, hating on it. But it'll still have its fans, right? It'll be really interesting. And I think what people don't realize is, we'll see what your opinion on Halloween Ends is if we get a couple more horrible sequels or that TV
Yeah.
series just fails miserably.
Yeah.
And you might be pining for the days of Halloween Ends and Halloween Kills and stuff like that. So it'll be fascinating, to see kind of what the consensus is. And I'm always curious to, what people's opinions are and how they're swayed by, big fans' opinions. So for instance, like
Mhm.
let's say like Lee McCoy or Dave McCrae
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
someone loves or hates something. I'm always curious if other people will agree with that more or that becomes the popular consensus.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me, to see how people's opinions change and things like that. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen here with Halloween Ends.
Yeah, I think that people, like as if somebody can make a good, explain the reasons why they like something that you don't like, then maybe you can go back and rewatch it and sort of, see it from that perspective and see a little bit more value in it.
Yeah,
I also think like after time goes by, like the next crop, like the next generation of Halloween fans, they aren't going to have like the expectations that everyone had
mm,
after watching the first two movies in that trilogy, right? So they'll be able to watch Halloween Ends without the expectations. Maybe they know like pretty much that it's going to go off in this different direction. I mean, I read there was like a David Gordon Green interview before I went and saw it, and he, was pretty open about, hey, there's this new character called Corey that kind of partners
yep,
up with Michael. So I went into the movie expecting something completely different. And I actually like when chances are taken in these franchises because the worst thing you can do is just rehash and then have a movie that's not very good, right? We already have
yeah,
enough of those in the Halloween franchise. And I guess that's my, kind of final thought on like Ends or even David Gordon Green trilogy, where I'm like, man, y'all are acting like all the other sequels are really, really good. There's like a
yeah.
few of them
No,
that are really good, but like, come on, like, Halloween 5 is a struggle for me to get through.
yes,
And I'm actually like liking Curse a little bit more as I get older. And then H2O, it's like the first act works for me, and then it totally falls apart from there. Um, exactly like you're saying, who knows in 20 years the way that those thoughts are going to change, right? And
yep,
yeah, I mean,
exactly.
hey, we've got the power, Nick, to influence people. No, but no, I think one of the things that we can do on YouTube is, is talking about the things you like, talking about the things you don't like, being fair about it. And then at the very least, people can't call you like a shill because you're not
Yeah,
being blind to the things that are like wrong with it. So I think that's like an important way to sort of be like, hey, you don't have to love or hate it. You could just be kind of lukewarm about it. Or you could even give it like a second or third watch and see how you feel after that.
yeah, and opinions change over time. When I watched
Mhm.
2018, I the first time I loved it. I was like, this is the best sequel since Halloween 2. And then a year passed, and I was like, it's got these problems. And then I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, am I just dissecting this too much? Can I just enjoy a damn movie for once?
Yeah.
So I've kind of gone back and forth on it. So opinions change. So
Yeah.
people don't are afraid to admit it sometimes, but your opinion can change.
Yeah, and if you take that same lens that you're judging the David Gordon Green movies with, and move that lens on over to go the original Halloween 2 or Halloween 4 or whatever, like I don't know, I think you can be like really hypercritical about those movies too. Like I really enjoy those movies, but it's like, I mean, in H4, it's no, secret that the mask is a friggin' mess.
Yep. Yep.
A lot of people say that's like their second favorite or first favorite in the franchise, and that kind of blows me away just because of the mask. But yeah, I mean, it's like as time goes on, and then I'm like, well, if I'm going to be this harsh about Evil Dies Tonight, then let me be just as harsh as the fact that in Halloween 2 there's a lot of like waiting around and nothing really happening.
Yep. Exactly.
And I wanted to grab a couple. There were a couple comments up here. Man, people are really, I love seeing the chat, just fly off the handle. You guys are awesome up here. Somebody had mentioned the news that just dropped. I think was it late yesterday? The Eli Roth Hostel series with Paul Giamatti. Have
Yeah.
you heard about this?
Yeah, I just saw that. I was kind of falling asleep last night. I was like, "What? Did I dream this?" Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
I saw like I think I don't know what movie it was. I'm not sure if it was The Leftovers, the last one that he had done, but he was like on the red carpet and some guy was like, is there any kind of movie you really want to make that you've never made before? And he's like, oh, I want to do horror. And the guy was like, what? And he's like, I
Yeah.
just think horror, there's just such beautiful films. And he's like, what kind of movie? And Giamatti was like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's just a beautiful film. And the guy was like disgusted.
What?
And I'm like, this is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
somebody like of his caliber,
Yes.
Hostel isn't really necessarily my cup of tea particularly, but I'm very intrigued with Giamatti coming in, and Eli Roth won me over completely with Thanksgiving. What do you think about this, Hostel series and, what somebody like Giamatti could bring to a TV show like that?
Giamatti is great. Like I that's why I had to do a double take because I was like, really? He's like, Oscar caliber in some movies, so yeah, it's interesting, maybe he's just sick of the same roles, but clearly something about, horror, has kind of grabbed him and where he's wanted to kind of get into it. So, clearly he has a little of all of us in him,
Yeah.
where he's intrigued a little bit, which is really cool because you don't see it. You see, the Kevin Bacons and the Jamie Lee Curtises, where they start out in horror and maybe, okay, I'm going to go back to my roots and pay the
Yeah.
fans back or get a paycheck or,
Mhm.
whatever. You don't see someone that's established. And obviously he's not an A-lister, but he's talented. He's in A-list movies.
Mhm.
And it's just not something you see all the time. And, Hostel isn't really my cup of tea either at this point in my life. But there's no denying that Eli Roth is, a huge presence. He's very talented.
Mhm. Yes.
And, is this kind of the snowball effect of all of these, are going to be, TV shows now. So that'll be interesting,
Yeah.
moving forward, which may or may not be a good thing. Who knows? But, there's just so much you can do with TV as far as like characters and why they make decisions and, just the
Mhm.
depth of what you can bring. It can also be really boring depending on what they're doing. But I think it's really intriguing. And it's something I'll give a shot to because why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I think having Giamatti in there makes I'd be willing to sit down and give it a shot, And it's Eli Roth, yeah, it seems like there's so much within the horror genre that he is just highly capable of, executing really well. So it's not just like he's not a one-trick pony or just known for the stuff that, got his career started. He's been able to kind of pepper in some different, subgenre work within that genre. Yeah, I mean, Giamatti, friggin' American Splendor is one of my favorite movies of all
Oh yeah.
time. Like, I love him in that. And you're right, it is really cool to see somebody that's established, that's willing to take that chance because ultimately, I saw like he did a video, they do that like Criterion video where they put the stars in like a closet. They get to go through the Criterion editions of movies
Oh
and pick out like
yeah.
their top
Yeah,
five.
yeah, yeah.
And most of his were like obscure horror films. And
Interesting.
I could tell he's just like a kid in a candy store when it comes to horror. So this is probably something he's just been like waiting for somebody to ask him,
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think even though I don't want to see a Michael Myers reboot, and let me know if I'm crazy in the chat, guys, I think he would make a great Loomis. I mean,
Yes.
it would be and almost like poetry with Donald Pleasance, like another guy that wasn't really, he was in a whole bunch of
Yeah.
B movies and all that stuff, and then finding himself in a series like Halloween, and then kind of near the endish of his life, like the last act of
Yes.
his life, and that's what he's known for. Like no one talks about, even his James Bond appearance. No one talks about, it's
Right.
like it's all Loomis. So yeah, it would be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We're talking Bud says In a Violent Nature was interesting. Have you seen that one yet?
I haven't seen it. Actually, I was talking about it a couple days ago when he saw it, and he was raving about it. So it's kind of piqued my interest. Have you seen it?
I have not. I think I'm gonna wait for streaming because
Yeah.
I got moths flying out of my pockets with everything I'm putting into the channel here. And I've just heard kind of lukewarm, like, hey, it's a great concept, but probably like a C+ movie, like, overall, so one of those things that I think I can kind of wait on a little bit.
If they had like budget cinemas like they did back when we were growing up, I can go see a
Mhm.
movie for 2.99. I would definitely be going to see it. But I'm with you. I'll wait till streaming because I'm a cheapskate lately. But yeah, I'm intrigued by it.
And that's an interesting thing too, is everyone's sort of like, there's all this talk about like what's making the theaters die and all this. And it's like, man, it isn't helping at all that the week after a movie comes out, they've already announced the streaming date. It's like that you're basically
Yes.
just saying, like, don't bother spending your money. I think with Abigail, maybe they waited 2 weeks to announce the streaming date, but like Late Night with the Devil, it was like after that first weekend, they're like, oh yeah, and it's coming out on Shudder on April 19th or whatever. And I'm like, what the hell are we doing
Yeah.
here, people? You're cutting the
Crazy.
legs out from under the film.
Yes. Yes. Makes no sense.
Yeah, it's just give it a chance. Back when we were growing up, I don't know exactly, when you were born, but in the 80s and 90s, you had to wait like 6 months at least for a movie to come out on VHS. Sometimes
Yes.
9 months to a year. If it was a Christmas movie that came out like Thanksgiving, you're waiting till like the next Thanksgiving for that movie to come out because they wanted to put it out at the right time for, to get that market. And
Yes.
so now that everyone kind of knows, like, man, even if you just made people wait 3 months, like that would do it. A few more people would go to the theater because they wouldn't want to wait that long.
Well, especially nowadays when it's so easy to get something spoiled for you.
Mhm.
If you have to wait 4 or 5 months, you may want to go because the second you log on to Twitter or whatever, you're gonna have something spoiled for you. So yeah, I'm with you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and it's I think another thing too is now that there are people like us out there talking about these movies, people are sort of like they use that as their litmus test, kind of like, I'll check
Yep.
out my 5 reviewers that I trust and see how they think,
Yes.
and we'll see if
Yes.
it's worth my money. Because that's another thing too, is like you're saying, they need to bring back those budget theaters or just have like a night for those kinds of showings, maybe.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think a big thing, like for me, the older I get, it's like, man, what if they did showings that were just like 21 and up? You do an
Yeah.
11 p.m. screening and it's just like, no kids, no bullshit. You
Yeah.
just, even for movies that aren't necessarily rated R, I'm all for it. Because if you're not selling the tickets, you might as well find some way to get people in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before you were kind of rounding the corner here, but we got about another 15 minutes or so. I do want to get
Yeah.
into, we had kind of chatted a little bit beforehand about, talking about some, kind of like one-off horror films or like slashers that could have been, you know, it's sort of like a shame that they weren't ever turned into a series, or maybe like they could be brought back. And, most recently, finding out that Blumhouse is bringing back My Bloody Valentine, I guess would be a good way to sort of launch into that subject. What are your thoughts on, Blumhouse taking over My Bloody Valentine? How do you feel about, that property? And then what are some other one-off slashers that you think could either make a comeback now or should have had sequels in their time?
Yeah, My Bloody Valentine. I think it's a good property to get because it's got a lot of untapped potential. The
Mhm.
original I thought was great, and just the minor outfits that it's really freaky.
Yes.
Like just someone
Yes.
coming at you in that gas mask or whatever it's called. That's scary shit right there.
Mhm.
And I know they did the remake with Jensen Ackles and
Yeah.
or mid 2000s, right? Like 2009-ish, 2010, something like that. I'm not a fan of that. And
Mhm.
sorry,
Yeah.
ladies, I just don't like Jensen Ackles. I think he's a terrible actor.
Yeah.
But terrible is too harsh. But he's got a shtick, and that's just his shtick, right? It works for him. But
It's
I,
good
I
on
just wasn't a fan.
television.
Yeah, he's good on television, right? And I thought that movie was hurt by the fact that it was coming with the 3D craze coming back, right? So
Yeah.
so everything was kind of in your face. But looking at it now, I just watched it like a year ago. It's
Mhm.
15 years old or whatever it is, and now that 3D effect is pretty bad and
Yeah.
distracting. Um,
Mhm.
but it was okay. But so I think there's a lot of potential with this. The people are gonna gripe because Blumhouse is doing it, right? And Blumhouse ruins everything, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone's got to look at the negatives, and Blumhouse has had a lot of misses. They haven't ruined
Yeah.
anything. They haven't destroyed anything. So people need to relax a little bit.
Yes.
The
Absolutely.
fact that we have a company like Blumhouse who is just grabbing all these properties and making all these other, movies that aren't properties and just churning out horror movies, at the end of the day, that's pretty cool. If you said to, 8-year-old Nick or 8-year-old Davey, that there's going
Mhm.
to be a company that's just going to be making horror movies all the time, we would have
Yeah.
said, hey, that's pretty cool, right? You
Yeah.
know, so people, complain about Blumhouse, but for this franchise, it's probably the right company to have.
Mhm.
They can make them cheap, where if the movie's moderately decent, it'll make money and they can keep going with it, right? So
Mhm.
I think it's exciting, especially if you're a fan of the franchise. It should be really exciting. But even as someone that's just a casual, a fan of something like that, I think it's exciting because there's potential in a another, I don't want to call him a horror icon, but another person like that can be
Mhm.
creepy and they can do cool stuff with. So I think that's exciting to me. What are your thoughts on the franchise?
I really enjoy the first movie a lot. It's very fun. It's got that, kind of light campy feel.
Mhm.
The characters all feel really natural to me. That's what I love about that first film is it seems
Yes.
like the performers are all having a really good time. It's kind of got that 80s sort of like teen movie kind of vibe to it with, the trappings of a slasher. And I do love those like whodunit revenge slashers. I think it's a good way
Yeah.
to kick a series off. And it really is a shame that I mean, neither movie got a follow-up, but they both end on cliffhangers. And
Right.
it's a damn shame that the first movie didn't get any follow-ups because it would have been so interesting to have the, one-armed miner come back, have Axel come
Mhm.
back and wreak havoc again. I feel like with Blumhouse, it's like, well, what do? It's almost like you have to start by remaking or reimagining the first film. And then
Yes.
from there, maybe you have the cliffhanger. At least you know that you want to make two movies. So if you go into it, you say, hey, we're at least making two. We're going to kind of reimagine the original, and then we're going to do the sequel that we always thought it could have or should have had. And I
Yes.
think like if I had my pick, I would like set the movie in the 80s. I wouldn't make it modern. I would go back and maybe put the first one back in 81 like the original, and then maybe do a follow-up that's like in the mid 80s. Everyone's kind of forgotten about it or whatever. But if Blumhouse were a baseball player, it would be in the Hall of Fame with like a 600 batting average, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like they do for the most part when they bring on a property, they handle it a little bit better than these like one-off new ideas that sort of don't seem to stick the landing as much because they don't have that foundational like fan base. But I think that My Bloody Valentine, it's like, what's it gonna hurt, right? It's already had a false restart, so we might as well give it another shot, see if it can get back up on its legs.
Exactly. Exactly. And to answer your other question, what other,
Mhm.
slasher franchise or should have been a franchise? I was thinking about this all weekend because I know you mentioned it to me last week, and I keep coming back, and I'm sure you've seen it. I just keep coming back to the Prowler.
Yeah,
From Joseph Zito in 1981, I want to say.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So and Zito obviously directed, the final chapter in Friday the 13th franchise,
Mhm.
and so you saw his talent there. But before that, he worked with Savini on the Prowler, and that's another one that
Yeah.
uh, you know, as far as one-offs go, it's one of the better ones, especially in the early
Mhm.
'80s when there was, hundreds of thousands of slashers
Yeah.
at that time that just didn't go anywhere. The Prowler, it was always creepy to me, and the concept of the I think it was a Vietnam vet or something like that. But that whole concept was cool, and there's some great kills in there. Obviously, you got Tom Savini, so you're gonna have great kills. But I also thought that
Yeah.
concept that movie was really good, as far as slashers go. And as far as any other movies, I'm going back to the early '80s, and I'm a huge, huge fan of The Changeling with George C. Scott. You ever see that?
Mm. Man, it's like you're speaking my language here, Nick, because I'm obsessed with The Prowler and The Changeling. The
No
Changeling is
way.
one of my favorite horror movies, and Yeah. Oh, I love that movie so much. Yes.
Me too. I'm a sucker for George C. Scott. You know, Exorcist 3.
Yeah.
Even when he did Christmas Carol, where he played Scrooge, I just love the guy.
Yeah.
He's so
He
intriguing to me.
he
He's just
really
like
brings
a
it.
rough guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he really brings it, but then there's like enough vulnerability. It's like it's a
Hmm.
really interesting mix of like a tough old school like man's man, but just
Yes.
enough of like that sliver of vulnerability that, it's easy to like relate with him, I think, when you see him in these kinds of movies.
Yes. Agreed.
And The Changeling is freaky as all get out. So you want
Yes.
to see that come back as like you want to see that reimagined, or what do you want to see from The Changeling?
Oh, man, I just want to watch it again tonight. I guess I would just say probably reimagined, but as we're sitting here talking about George C. Scott, I don't know if you can, get an actor that's going to make me, like that character again like that. It's just a
Yeah.
cool concept. If a guy that, loses his family right off the bat, right, and then
Mhm.
horrible car accident, obviously, that he witnesses. And then he has this ghost, reaching out to him. And it's probably a concept that's been done since then,
Oh,
numerous
sure.
times, right?
Yeah.
But for something about the changeling, like it was just very creepy. And the ball
Mhm.
dropping down the stairs and but do something with it. Maybe not a, a reimagining, but maybe some kind of just using that concept again, because it's an
Yeah.
intriguing concept of a guy kills his, spoiler alert for a movie from 1980, right,
80,
81, something
yeah.
like that, 80, yeah. A guy that kills his uh handicapped son, and then he needs another kid to put in its place. That's an intriguing concept. It doesn't even have to
Yeah.
be like the changeling, but use that concept and take a modern spin on it. Use technology, use something to make it modernize, and just kind of have it be like a little bit of a love letter to the changeling. That's kind of what I would do.
Yeah, it's like this classic, just, that haunted house kinda movie, slow burn, but there's this spirit that needs to find justice for what happened to it
Yes.
when it was alive. And, there are some movies that I feel like have a little bit of that inspiration. I mean, a lot like it's a big theme in like haunted house or like any sort of, spirit haunting kind of films, but a couple movies that make me, kind of have that sort of feeling, like The Innkeepers by Ty West kind of has a little bit of that vibe.
Sure.
Have you ever seen What Lies Beneath, that Robert Zemeckis
Oh,
movie with Michelle Pfeiffer and
I
Harrison
saw it in
Ford?
the theater, man. I was in high school. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah, me too. Because that to me is sort of like Hitchcock meets The Changeling. Like it's got this
Yeah.
kind of crime element, little bit of like a Rear Window meets Changeling sort of feel. But I love that idea or like Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon, where a
Oh,
spirit
that's
is
so
helping
good.
somebody like discover the crime, like, and no one else knows. It's like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, because there are some moments in The Changeling where it's like it's not a graphically violent movie by any means, but man, there are some really chilling moments in there. And, it is a slow burn, so it takes some time to get in there. But I feel like they really earn every bit of that in that film.
Absolutely agree. And Stir of Echoes is another one I need to rewatch because
Yeah.
that's really good.
I was upset when that movie came out. I was, mid high school. I think I picked up like a $5 copy on VHS from Blockbuster after seeing it. And then, they put it on sale or whatever. And I
Yeah.
watched that movie a shitload in high school.
Yeah.
I
It was
feel
kind of
like that
over.
movie is,
Oh, sorry. I
go
was going to
ahead.
say it's kind of overshadowed by The Sixth Sense, so it didn't really get the praise
Yeah.
it deserved. But
Eh,
but yeah,
I think it's better.
so do
I
I.
think it's better than The Sixth Sense. Like,
So
not
do I.
maybe not like The Sixth Sense. Like M. Night Shyamalan really knows how to put together like a beautiful looking film and everything. But I think Stir of Echoes, like as far as the story points and I just enjoyed it a little bit more. I thought it was a bit darker. I mean, yeah, Sixth Sense has a couple darker moments, but Stir of Echoes is pretty messed up. Like,
Yes.
I need to rewatch that one as well. And yeah, man, the Prowler, I mean, I would take that all day if they brought something like the Prowler back. In fact, it's probably one of the reasons why I really liked Thanksgiving, because when I watched Thanksgiving, I was like, oh, this is like My Bloody Valentine and the Prowler. It's
It's
this
the Prowler. Yeah.
classic return. Everyone was saying it's a return to 90s horror. Everyone was, and I was like, y'all are showing
What?
your age, and it's cute, and
Yeah,
I get it.
yes,
I was like,
yes,
I get it, and there are people older than me that probably think the same thing when I bring up like certain movies and stuff.
yes,
But I'm like, well, you can compare it to I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream, like kind of, but I think it's way more like My Bloody Valentine and The Prowler because it's this revenge whodunit, combination. And I think with Thanksgiving, with the sequel, if they bring back John Carver and bring back Dempsey as Carver, they have an awesome opportunity to not have to rehash what they did in the first film. Now that we know the audience knows who he is, and
right.
and the main characters know who he is, then it can just be a straight up slasher. And I think that's kind of a
Yes.
cool 1-2 punch, to not have to worry about the whodunit element after you get out of that first movie.
Or they can be like Scream since Frank's in the chat and just copy it again, and just have it be another whodunit for
It's
7
just the same,
sequels, right?
yeah, the same thing every time, diminishing
Yeah,
returns, but no one acts like there are. No, yeah, and
yeah,
Frank says the Prowler has one of the best looks in the right light. Yeah, I think the Prowler, like everything about it, just
yes,
maybe not as creepy as the Harry Warden character or the minor character from
yeah,
My Bloody Valentine, but there is something off-putting about the Prowler. And you mentioned those effects from Savini, and I've read about the movie. They took like one day of shooting for each kill.
that's great.
So, that's why those kills in that movie look so damn good. And yeah, Joseph Zito, there's something like he just knows how to shoot a slasher. I mean, he's got two of the best in my book, just
Yeah.
between that and the final chapter. I don't need anything else. Like, you did a great job, Joseph. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just the way he utilizes like, light and shadow is just, light
Mhm.
years above some of these other like cheap slashers you see. So it kind of stands out to you. And even if you don't know why it stands out to you, you can feel it when you're watching the movie. So yeah, I agree with you. Zito is awesome.
There's like a physicality that you feel. It's sort of like the way that they portray Jason in the final chapter, where you hear him like grunting and he's kind of running a little bit. There's just, and that to me, that's like the director has a big hand in that, because not only are they, deciding how the shots are set up, but they're also, directing the actors. So, I feel that same kind of physicality and brutality in the Prowler that you also get, a few years later there in the final chapter, which is,
Absolutely.
I mean, easily one of the, for a while, it was my favorite Friday the 13th, and then 6 took it over, but it's right there. It's, I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost, indiscernible, the difference. Oh, and then Frank says, here we go with this Scream shit. We only, only so you can say that, Frank. We have to bring it up. So we throw the, a nice fastball right down the middle, and then you hit it out of the park like Blumhouse 6 out of 10 times.
Exactly.
Trisha, though, she says Scream is supreme, and that rhymes, so it's true. Alley Girl brings up The Burning. What do you think about The Burning? Do you think that should make a return here?
I haven't seen it in so long, but I need to
Mhm.
revisit it because I remember really liking it. And as far as like, Friday the 13th ripoffs, I remember it being, if not the best one, definitely one of the better ones. That's
Yeah,
early 80s too, right?
another Savini special effects movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he seems to crop up quite a bit here. Crop up, get it? Cropsy. Yeah, The Burning, I need to watch it again. I've only seen it once. I bought it just so I could watch it. I watched it with my wife, and I was just sort of like, it was okay. Like, certainly some moments that stood out to me. But then when I saw that like Harvey Weinstein wrote the story, was one of the story writers, I was like, oh, that's why every male character here is trying to force himself on every female character. Interesting.
Makes
And I don't
sense.
know if that like
Write
sort
what you
of
know, right? Write what you know.
I was like, yeah, I'm like, wow, he's just really putting it out there like
Yeah.
40 years before anyone found out. Like, that's
Yeah.
pretty disturbing. But yeah, I mean, I think it's got some, certainly super memorable moments there in The Burning, and it's kind of wild that it didn't get a sequel. I think it definitely could make a comeback.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of Blumhouse taking that one, maybe Sam Raimi's like Ghost House Pictures or something could snag one of these properties. I don't know if they're doing
Yeah.
anything other than Evil Dead though at this point.
Yeah. Obviously not tonight because yeah, I know you got another guest, but at some point I'm gonna need to talk to you about Evil Dead. I need you to convert me.
Yeah, are you just sort of lukewarm, or you just actively don't
I'm
like it?
I don't I'm lukewarm. So
Yeah.
I actually like the 2013 remake, even though it was a little too gory for me. But
Mm.
I love Bruce Campbell, man. I'm telling you, I love me some Bruce Campbell. I'm a huge fan of the show Burn Notice that he was in. But I just was lukewarm on it, and I need to give it a rewatch. I watched
Yeah.
1 and 2. I still haven't seen Army of Darkness, but I watched 1 and 2, and it was just kind of like, eh.
Oh,
And I
gotcha.
know from watching you on Barry's channel, I know you're a big fan of the Evil Dead franchise, and
Yeah.
obviously I'm looking over your right shoulder, and there you go. So yeah, so I need you
Yeah,
to convert me sometime.
I saw it at the right time in my life. I was like 15 or 16, and I had never seen a movie that was like that creative and punk rock, like the way the approach. I liked that it looked rough, you know. Just everything about that worked for me. The first is still my favorite in the franchise. And then I'd
Okay.
put the 2013 one right after that because I like the more serious side
Yeah.
of Evil Dead. The TV show I thought was pretty fun, Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah. Yeah.
thought Evil Dead Rise was like okay. I felt like they sort of pulled back a little bit. I felt like they could have. I kind of always want Evil Dead to sort of push the boundaries in
Yeah.
each subsequent film. So, but yeah, we should definitely have a chat about
Yes.
that. We can talk about that offline. And hey, maybe you could bring
Yes.
me on your channel and I can convert you live on air.
That's actually a good idea. Let's plan on that.
There we go. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming by, Nick. It's been great to actually get to talk to you because guys, I don't know if you caught this at the beginning. A lot of times when I bring guests on the channel, like we've just been DMing and never even talked, just watched them talk. I'm in there in the chat like everybody else. And then it's great to actually get to sit here and get to know you a bit, Nick. And yeah, I can't wait to do something here in the future. Let's talk some Evil Dead. Let's put something together. And yeah, really appreciate you staying up late here on a Wednesday night for me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. I was joking at the beginning about you having all these Titans on, and then me, and I know the 27 people in the chat right now are waiting for Destiny to get on and me to shut up. But I really do appreciate you having me on. I've enjoyed talking with you, and your channel is blowing up. You got a lot of good stuff going. I'm excited to see where you're gonna head. I'm excited to see everything you have planned, because I know you have more than just Late Night with the Davey, and I think this channel, this idea you have here is just gold. Having a late night talk show, I think it's gold. When I heard you mention it, I was like, oh man, that's a great idea. And I think you got the personality for it. You certainly got the sport coat for it. So I'm honored you had me on one of your early shows, and I really do appreciate it, Davey.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Yeah, this whole YouTube journey has been an amazing, just like blessing after blessing after blessing. Not only getting to meet the great people that support the community, support all of these awesome channels. I love chatting with you guys when I'm, in a chat on another person's video or stream. And and then getting to meet folks like you, Nick, and Destiny, who is waiting patiently here. Yeah, it's been unreal. And 42 years and I finally found a good idea. So I'm happy about that. Thank you, Late Night with the Devil, for inspiring me. Yeah, man. Let's get together sometime soon on your channel. And if I'm going to be doing these every week, we'll probably have you back sometime on here as well. So thank you so much. Guys, I want to let you know down in the link below, or the description below, you can find links to Nick's channel. So hop on over there and give him a sub if you have not done that yet. You just passed 5,000, about a week and a half ago, a couple weeks ago?
I did. Everybody gets lucky once in a while, so I'll take it.
And then you can check out Nick's merch shop down below as well. I've got that link posted in there. So yeah, guys, thank you so much to Nick
Thanks,
for
Davey.
joining us here. Really appreciate you guys chiming in the chat. Nick, have a great rest of your night, man, and we'll talk soon.
You too. See you guys.
All right, everyone. I'm just going to make myself a little bit bigger for a second. You guys are amazing. The chat has been so awesome. Just you guys talking amongst yourselves, chiming in with us. Oh, I love it. Even though Frank doesn't like Scream and like half of the people probably don't like Halloween Ends, it's all good, right? Because this is the place that we come to share our weirdo opinions. We're all kind of weirdos. We like this thing that when you tell people you like scary movies, they look at you like, It's like the Stewie thing from Family Guy. And they think like, are you going to kill me now? And it's like, no, I don't like real violence. I like the weirdo roller coaster fantasy stuff of horror. So really appreciate you guys. What's happening, Eli? Just want to say what's up to you, my guy, before we move on here and bring in our next guest. I'll also say hi to the Shape of Horror podcast. I think this is the first time I've seen you in here. So thank you so much for joining. I'm glad you're digging what we've got. And folks, our next guest, you've seen her on Good Real Hunting for Back from the Grave. And I'm hoping that that's the name of the show, because when you get on these live streams, you kind of have brain farts every few seconds. Back from the grave, back from the dead. Back from the dead. All right, there it is. And Fear Freaks on Braden Timmons' channel as well. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, please welcome Destiny Faulkner. What's happening, Destiny?
Hi. Hi. Thank you for having me on. You got it the second time, Back from the Dead.
I don't know what is my problem. I have not even hit
It's
the weed
late.
pens tonight, guys. Yeah. I'm not even done, like no drugs. I'm, so far.
So far.
But I try to keep it all, tight for everyone here. But yeah, not only do you do those regular appearances there on Good Real Hunting and on Braden's channel, but I mean, you pop up all over the place. Sledgehammer Horror. I've seen you on like Drum Dums, Matt Facci's channel over there as well. So Destiny, I have to ask you, how come you don't have your own channel? Or do you? And I don't know about it.
I don't. I've always talked about doing it myself, and I kind of always jumped around. And I used to get called like a streamer hopper because I would just hop around. But like my thing is like whenever I'm committed to something, I'm like super committed. And then as soon as I just like don't like want to do it, I'll just completely check out. And so that's something I'm kind of worried about, even though like I have ideas and stuff, and I've had ideas for a while, but I'm lazy. That's what it really is I'm lazy.
It can be, yeah. I mean, it ends up being work, right? It's like I tell my cats I'm going to my fun work now when I suit up to do something like this. But yeah, certainly it's not only just thinking about the idea or thinking of the ideas. It's the shooting and the editing and everything like that. And yeah, I can totally understand that. And you've been in it for long enough to be able to do this like stream hopping or hopping on other people's channels. What was the movie that like really got you going into horror? Was it Twilight?
It wasn't Twilight, but I do love Twilight.
A different kind of horror.
Yeah, like actual scary horror. No, it was definitely like Halloween. Growing up, really, because like my mom had me really young, and so everyone that watched me was also young, and so I was kind of able just like to watch whatever I wanted. And so I would just watch horror, and then I would go to my dad's side and he would show me movies. So it would probably be Halloween, just the entire Halloween franchise. I was constantly watching that and Jaws. Those are like the two that I strictly grew up on. Those are just my favorite go-tos. But Halloween and Jaws, those are definitely been super influential. Just they've been around for like ever in my life.
Yeah. That's so funny because those are two big ones for me. I mean, Jaws is, if I had to pick a favorite movie of all time, that's the easy answer for me. It's got everything, right? Like what doesn't Jaws have? Suspenseful, thrilling, dramatic, comedic, horrific, checks all the boxes.
Boobs.
I mean, a little bit. Yeah. Well, especially now on Blu-ray, you can really see him in that opening shot, I mean, growing up as a kid, I don't even think they ever like even censored that on TV because there wasn't enough like the hi-fi. You couldn't see. Yeah. Nowadays you get like, you can see bush and boobs in that opening scene there.
Right. It's like,
who knew?
Damn. Quality's like really come a long way.
Thank you, Spielberg. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Spielberg.
Now you had kind of touched on, when you're saying like when you decide to do something or get into something, like you fixate on it. I heard you mention on Fear Freaks last week this sort of like hyper fixation, and I'm pretty similar. Like especially when I was a little kid, I would, you know, get into this new thing, and that was like all I would talk about for weeks on end. And probably if I didn't have, you know, Kate in my life, I'd probably sit down and watch like Thanksgiving and the Halloween movies like once a week. You know, I would just keep on diving into that same thing. What, you know, have you been that way always? And what are you currently hyper fixated on?
Have I been that way always? I'm gonna say yes. Cause like my first like genuine, besides like maybe because I was so young, I didn't realize they were hyperfixations. I was just like, this is just what I watch. But like we mentioned Twilight. It's coming back up. Like that was definitely like my first like real hyperfixation. And then eventually it was One Direction. And that took over my life for years. Like up until when they split up, really. Sad day. Anyways, but then it just kept moving along into shows, and currently it's Twin Peaks. I won't shut up about Twin Peaks. It's probably annoying, but like there's so many people in my life that are like the closest to me that have not seen it, and so I'm like, well, I don't have too many people to talk about, even though so many people have seen it. So I've gotten Brayden to watch it. I was like, we have to watch it because we have to talk about it. So it's definitely Twin Peaks right now. I'm like completely into it. I just started Desperate Housewives today. So maybe that'll be the new thing.
Yeah.
Kyle McLaughlin's also in it, so I'm waiting for him to show up. But
Twin that's Peaks, great. Sure. Hell yeah. Now, so One Direction, that's how old are you, Destiny? I know I shouldn't ask that. 25. Okay, so that makes sense because I'm an old man. I'm 42. So I'm like, when I think of One Direction, I'm like, didn't that just happen? And I'm like, oh, but maybe it was like, maybe they were at their height of popularity closer to like 10 to 15 years ago or something like that, you know?
Yeah, it's actually like disgusting how long it goes. Yeah, it's been about 10 years, and that makes me feel like I listen to their music now and I cry because I'm like, wow, this is like actually what like nostalgia feels like. I'm like, this is actually kind of crazy. Yeah, it's been like 10 years since they've split up.
Just wait until they do their reunion because you know that's coming. That's where the real money is, right? It's like the sequel of the music world, the legacy sequel.
Yeah, I told Brayden, I'm like, I don't care how much money it is. I'm going. I have to go. Which I did see them live. Not to flex too much on everyone here, I did see them live. Zane was still in the band. Best day of my life. Unfortunately, I don't remember any of it. I was like so excited. It's like I blacked out while I was there. So
blacked out from excitement. Yeah, you know, I think I've been there a couple times because I'm a huge music nut. I played, you know, I started my first band when I was like 14, and it was a huge part of my life for so long. And being into punk rock, like I used to, you know, fly places just to see shows that like hardly anyone knew about. But when you'd go there and you're at the punk rock club that only fits like 500 people and it's packed, you feel like you're in, you know, an arena, you know. And I've definitely seen some favorite bands of mine where I'm like, gosh, I don't know if I could, you know, I was so in the moment, right? It's like you just like you're just experiencing it, and that's it. You don't even need to be drunk or anything like that to completely just like, oh, forgot that one.
Exactly. I was like 13, so I definitely wasn't anything. I was just in the moment. And it was great. I definitely cried. And yeah, they were all there. It was amazing. And that's literally it. And I got home safe. That's all I remember.
There you go. They're like your Beatles, right? You know?
Yeah, like seriously, they are my
screaming
Beatles.
And crying. A whole bunch of chicks screaming and crying.
All of it.
So who is that now? Now they're just it's Taylor Swift, right? It's not even, there isn't even like a boy band out there right now, is there?
No, not like that was actually something with like Simon Cowell was recently talking about, who like helped put together One Direction. He was talking about how there's really like no current like actual boy bands, and I feel like One Direction was like the last big one. And I mean, Harry Styles is still very popular. I mean, they all are popular. Like each member is popular in their own right. I will say, like, I think Harry Styles is like the most popular. He's also my favorite.
He's the Justin Timberlake of the group.
Yeah, he is like skyrocketing, and I mean, he's doing it just like Justin. He's acting, maybe not very well, but he shows up, so he's there.
Yeah, and that's just the natural progression, right? Because it's like music kind of does have that, as far as like being a pop star, for most people anyways, it's like you get in, you make your money, you get out, and you find another route, to go to. And movies and, film and television, a little bit more longevity if you've got, some decent chops for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of decent chops, so I've only seen the first Twilight. And I only watched it with like the Riff Tracks guys, the guys from Mystery Science Theater, making fun of it. So it was great. I had a hell of a time. But how about what Robert Pattinson has done as an actor? I didn't expect that I was going to ask you this question, but to me, it's just so impressive. Like the amount of work he put into not only, get better as a performer, but now, even though he was part of that huge franchise, like now people think of him as Batman, or they think about a wild movie like The Lighthouse or something like that. What is it like, being somebody like you that's been a fan of, those early movies, seeing him like transform as a performer?
I mean, first, I think a lot of the flack that both him and Kristen Stewart got for like the Twilight franchise, I don't think was necessarily fair. Because really, like, if you've read the books, which I have, they are pretty true to their character. And so, like, it might seem like they come off as like they're acting bad, but also it's like they're acting how they were written. And maybe it's just because the source material wasn't that well written. And, this is like,
Yeah.
I am a fan, and I'm not saying they're amazing, but I still love them. But to see which I have not seen the new Batman, that is on my watch list whenever I'm at Braden's house to watch it, because he's a big TV, so I want to utilize that. So I haven't seen it yet, but I've obviously seen clips and everything. And I've seen other stuff he's like popped up in, and his range is just insane. And being there,
Yeah.
I know he was in Harry Potter, which that was a franchise I was not into. But seeing him like so early on into everything he's done now, and I still sometimes see people give him crap for it. I'm like, y'all will not let that go. Really,
Yeah.
what I think it is, and it's the same thing for One Direction, it's if you have something that is mainly woman, oriented, like the fan base are mainly girls, females, whatever, there's going to be shit thrown no matter like what it is. So it's going to happen. And like that's something I've definitely experienced like my whole life with a lot of stuff that I've liked, is just I'm going to get shit for it regardless, because usually it's by a guy, and it's mainly because it's usually for girls, whatever.
Sure.
So it's just like, it's frustrating in a way, but also it's going to happen, but to see him come like now from like that, I think it's great, because it's annoying, really. It's like, y'all, that was so long ago. We've moved on. Y'all are still there.
Well,
so,
and like, would anyone have turned that down? Like, hey, do you want to sign up for like 6 movies, or is it 5 movies or 6 movies? It's like, why wouldn't you sign that?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I'll be set, and then I can do whatever the hell I want after. And it seems like that's kind of the direction he took it. Like, all right, now I'm gonna like challenge myself as a performer. And you're absolutely right that like, the actors don't write the material, they don't direct the movies. There are other people that have to do those jobs, so yeah, it's tough to, really give them too much flack for that. You can, good-natured ribbing, like I get it. And yeah, the perception, you're right that something that's like predominantly geared towards, women, or especially like younger women, there's just a perception that it's just low in quality, or that there's something that's just not too deep about it. It's unfortunate, because I love the Ninja Turtles, and I'm not saying there's like that much deep about that, at least not when I was into the cartoons as a 7-year-old kid. So no one gave me crap about that one. So Batman, holy crap, that Batman movie, very, very fun. I mean, finally you get to see Batman as like a true detective, as like a real detective, so yeah, I'm excited to see what you think of that once you're able to watch it. And gosh, there was something else I was going to ask you about all of that, and I totally forgot. This is the fun thing about the lives, you just sort of like, you have a question, you forget it because you're talking too much, just blah 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 all the time.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
What are you, as far as like horror movies that are coming out, that have yet to come out this year. Is there something that you are looking forward to in particular?
I'm definitely looking forward to Maxine. I'm a big fan of X and Pearl. I'm curious to see how they conclude the trilogy, whether it is a conclusion, because I keep seeing talks of maybe a fourth one or something, but just to see where the story goes. Very excited for that. I'm also very excited for Terrifier 3. I'm a fan of the first two, and it being set during Christmas time, I think is so interesting. And the fact that we're getting it in October, I think is exciting. I'm glad that it's an October release for a Christmas movie. I just think it's gonna be so cool set against Christmas because I love Christmas time slashers. So to see Art the Clown set against that, those two I'm definitely probably the most excited for. Oh, Longlegs, thank you, Blu-ray. Which I have stayed clear of trailers. When Braden and I saw The Strangers Chapter 1, I've never done this before, but the trailer came on and I literally closed my ears and I had my eyes closed. I was just like, no. This is something I actually don't want to see because usually I do watch trailers, but this one,
Gotcha.
I don't want to. I don't know what's going on. So I'm looking forward to that because I do know a tiny bit of the synopsis, but that's it.
Did you see any of the teasers that came out at the beginning of the year? They're really odd. They're more of a feel thing. Did you see any of those?
I don't think so.
Because they're kind of the trailer that they just put out's more of the horror people want to see this, but we need some normies to come watch this movie too, right? But the original marketing for the movie was just very, very odd. They didn't really one of them is just a picture of a family, and you hear audio and the camera just zooms in on this old picture.
I do
and there's
remember
just
that
something
actually.
Yes. So even based on that, I'm getting creepy goosebumps just watching this image get zoomed in on. It's amazing. It's Osgood Perkins, right? Anthony Perkins' son that's directing that.
I believe so, yeah.
And I don't think I've ever seen one of his movies. So guys in the chat, let me know if there's an Osgood Perkins movie that you recommend I watch, because man, it's every shot in that trailer that you avoided seeing just seems so deliberate, the camera placement, the movement. It's almost I don't know if you're familiar with the Wes Anderson movies very much, but it's almost got that kind of feel where everything seems like it was so well thought out and planned. And I think, Longlegs looks so amazing. But let's talk a little Terrifier, because I don't know if you heard the beginning of the stream. I had talked about it a little bit with Nick because he's only seen the first one, and it prevented him from wanting to see the second one. And I know you had your Terrifier sweatshirt on for the picture you sent for the thumbnail. So I was like, well, this is great because I just watched those movies within the last couple weeks for the very first time. And Terrifier 2 got me excited for Terrifier 3, but the first one was one of the most excruciating experiences I've had trying to watch a movie. But it was amazing that there was that much of a flip, I'm spoiling a little bit my Terrifier 2 review, but I'm kind of right with you on with Terrifier 3. I'm like, man, if they get that runtime figured out, this could be something really special, because they did such a better job with that second movie. What is it about Terrifier that speaks to you? And especially with the first film, for those of us that maybe don't really get it, or the first film was a little lost on them, what about the first film would maybe convince me to give it another shot? I guess.
Okay, well, my thing for the first one, I always watch this during October. It is a Halloween time movie, obviously. Same thing with the second one. But for the first one, I always try to watch it during October time. It's short. That's my main thing. It is a short movie. And if it is a short movie, you already have me kind of hooked, because I love a short movie, mainly because my attention span isn't great. And so you have something short, and obviously some of the acting is not that great. It's definitely low budget. It feels very small, but it's still gross. There's obviously the one scene that is pretty prolific. and it's rough to watch, but the woman that plays her, she seems so amazing. And so like I see the cast and I see how much work is put into this. Like Damien Leone like did everything. And
Yeah.
you know, when you have someone that is that hands-on, he knows what he wants to make. He has a very clear vision. And it's kind of like a thing like he's not making this just for anyone because it is so extreme. And so this movie is not going to be, you know, everyone's cup of tea, obviously. But the fact that he still just makes it how he wants to make it, I found that to be respectable. It's the same thing. Like, I'm a Rob Zombie fan. I pretty much like all his movies, and some people don't, and that's fine. But he makes the movies that he's going to make, like,
Yeah.
and I respect that. Even if you don't like it, I'm like, okay, well, that's what you want to do. Cool. So the fact that he's so hands-on, like, I don't really do it anymore. Like, I used to play with like SFX makeup and do like makeup looks and stuff. And just to see what he's able to do, I'm just like, you're running the whole ship. That's absolutely insane to me. And so because of that,
Yeah.
I'm just like, yes. And I love Art the Clown. Whether or not the movie itself is that great around him, I think he is wonderful. And so
Yeah.
I'll watch him just for his crazy little antics. So I love him.
I think, yeah, you hit on some really good stuff there, especially with the first film. I kind of felt like it was more than, it wasn't really a movie per se, because there wasn't necessarily a story. It was like characters that are connected and then, you know, scenes that are loosely kind of connected to each other. But it's more of like a special effects showcase. And you're absolutely right. Like for Damien Leone to write and direct and do the makeup, because the makeup is arguably the most difficult thing out of those three, you know, to get it to look as good as it does, certainly, and to get the kind of reaction it gets. That's why I was so pumped when I watched the second one, because I was like, now he's gotten better, you know, and he sees where maybe some of the blind spots were on the first film. And he's like, you know, there is an actual story, you know, stuff like that. I love, like, that's one thing about any sort of creative type, whether it's someone's YouTube channel or a musician, or even like Pattinson with his acting and stuff like that, is a creative type that puts in the work and gets better. And you can actually like see that as they go on. Like that really can like get me behind, you know, a person like that. Yeah. And I think even though Terrifier, it's got those like kind of, you know, obviously it's splatter and it's like there to gross you out. You're right. Art, there's something about art that is so undeniably charming. And even more so in the second movie. I think he's like even funnier in it and works better. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the not as much humor, maybe just rolling around on a tricycle, or do you like art that puts on like googly eye glasses and stands there with the honker like right next to Sienna?
Yeah, I love the whole shebang. I think, like, I definitely prefer Terrifier 2 over the first one, even though I do think it is a little bit long. It could have been shortened, I think, at the end. But everything besides, I think, the runtime is so much fun to where, like, I feel like it does drag a little bit, but even though I was noticing it was dragging, I wasn't minding it. You know, I wasn't like, oh my God, when is this going to end? I was just like, oh, this is still going. Okay. They're still doing it. All right.
Yeah.
But in this second one, everything is like just, you know, so much more amped up than the first one. You're like, how is that possible? And then what
Yeah.
they've talked about for the third one, and we were at a convention, and then Damien Leone, he was like walking around, and then Braden was like talking to him about it, and he was like, yeah, there's going to be a scene in the third one like that is even crazier, which now that more has come out about it, we've all kind of like figured it has something to do with the child, possibly, you
People are
know?
guessing. Yeah. Yeah.
Which probably, yeah. Oh well. But so I'm excited. You know, like you said, he's captivating. Even
Yeah.
though he's doing like awful stuff and some like the worst stuff I've seen, because he's taking so much pleasure in it, you can't look away. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what he does. And I just think David Howard Thornton is so great. He just is like, when he is Art the Clown, he's just like fully just transformed. And I just think he's
Yeah.
so wonderful. And I'm glad Terrifier is getting like praise and love. It was kind of crazy to see it kind of take over TikTok. Like every other video I was getting was Art the Clown. And I was just like, this is so bizarre to see something that was
Yeah.
so indie and low budget to like really explode, I also just think it's just incredible. So like even if you don't, like the movies or like, how gross they are, just to have like a horror icon that was so small become something that was like viral, I think is pretty cool. And I think
Yeah,
it's
the
special.
look
We don't do
is
that too much these days.
yeah, the look of art is just sort of like you almost wonder like, man, how did somebody not think of that before? Like so just like kind of black and white, really creepy clown, just a very simple idea. And it's one of those things where it's like you can poo-poo Terrifier, which I certainly can with the first film, but also at the same time, it's like someone was going to come along and do this. Like at some point in history, there was going to be a movie that was this shockingly violent, even for a modern time, for people that probably thought they saw everything. So, more power to Damien Leone for being the guy to actually step in and do that. Not everyone or not just anyone could do that, right? So it takes a special person to have that idea and then be able to execute it so well. And yeah, I mean, there was like a little bit of a shitstorm on Twitter, which like, what's new? When that trailer came out and people were like, well, this is where I draw the line. Like people that liked the first two Terrifier movies that now all of a sudden are like, you know what? If the kid gets killed, then I'm done. And it's just sort of like, what? It's a movie, right? Who are you? The Christian Coalition? What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I'm like, we remembered a woman was literally split down her middle, right?
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
know it's like taboo, but there's been worse things, in movies with kids that have been shown. I personally
Sure.
stay clear of some of these type of movies, but it's just
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't like, and it's so over the top to where it's not like it's believable. The salt
Yeah.
and the bleach, I'm not like, oh my God,
Yeah.
that must hurt. I'm just like, holy shit. Obviously, it's not real because it's so over the top. And so I think
Yeah.
it's going to be the same thing. I think it's going to be something that's so over the top that it's funny. It crosses the point where like this is serious. To where like, oh shit, I can't believe they're going there. I'm excited. I love,
Yeah.
If it's nothing obviously too bad, like I think it's the movie like Antichrist, which I'll never watch that, or something where there's something really bad with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
That, I'm like, I get that, yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna be like, I don't know, the kid's probably gonna get fucked up, yeah. I just don't think it's gonna maybe be like as like prolonged, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
What if they do totally subvert expectations and the kid doesn't get it, but then there's something else that's like even more shocking that happens? Like, I mean, that, you never know. Certainly they're not going to hold back, right? That's not really what Terrifier does. Although watching the second film, I was like, oh, you know what? There are a couple of these kills that, relatively speaking, they kind of do hold back, which certainly, it worked for me in that second movie. Yeah, but who knows with the kid? I mean, I when you were talking about Antichrist with the baby, I had this flash of, have you seen The Witch? That
Yes.
yeah, that seat with the crushing the baby's head or whatever the heck the witch is doing. That was one of, like, I don't know why that image just flashed in my head and I was like, oh my god. Because
Oh my
that
God.
was pretty hardcore. I mean, they don't linger on it the way that like Terrifier would, but I think that's also like part of the thing with Terrifier where it's like it does reach that cartoony kind of level where it's so over the top. I mean, it does look realistic, so it's not like Evil Dead, like blood spouting everywhere, kind of ridiculous, but really not too far off. I kind of felt like a dick for how I felt about the first Terrifier movie, because the Evil Dead is one of my favorites, Dead Alive is one of my favorites, and I'm like, what the hell's like, why do I feel this way? But then seeing the second movie, I was like, okay, I can get on board with this.
Mhm.
And the
I think
music,
it's
oh my
really,
god.
yeah. I think it's fascinating when we have like these movies where you're like, you look at it, you're like, on paper I should love this. Like recently for me, that was Lisa Frankenstein. I went into this being like, I will love this movie, like 80s. It's like girly. Diablo Cody, Jennifer's Body is one of my favorite movies. So it's like written by Diablo Cody. This is gonna be so. And then I walked out of it. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
That's not what I was
You wanted to
thinking.
like it more.
Yes, I wanted to love it. And so
Yeah.
it sucks sometimes when that happens, when you're like, I'm going to love this. I have to, right? Look at everything else I love. And then it's like, that did not hit the mark. So
Yeah.
sometimes
I
it's
felt, yeah.
disappointing.
I had that experience with Evil Dead Rise where, I think Evil Dead Rise is fine, but judging from the trailers, I was like, and I love the franchise so much. So judging by the trailers, I was like, oh man, they're really going to like kick it up a notch. If that's what they're showing us in the trailer, this movie's going to go like crazy. And then I felt like after watching the movie, I was like, man, like the biggest moments were in the trailer for the most part. And I was just like, I just felt okay about it. And I walked out of the movie. Like I went with my wife and my older brother, and I was like, guys, I feel like a jerk for not liking that movie as much as I wanted to, you know? And then even when I saw Abigail, went to a press screening and people were like cheering and freaking out in the theater. And I was like, for the last half hour, I was like, oh, you guys are still going? Like, oh, and now we're doing this now. And I was just like sinking in my seat next to Cecil, just being like, oh, I wanted to like this movie more, but I'm just not feeling it. And you wonder what's wrong with me because everyone loves this shit.
Yeah. You know, I understand. I have not seen Abigail yet. I still need to watch it. I'm very upset that I haven't yet. But Evil Dead Rise, that was mine and Braden's like first like movie date. And so for that, like it's always gonna be special. But I do remember I love it a lot more now than I did. That first, like walking out of it, I was like, huh. I was like,
Yeah.
well, I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I was like, some of it was really good. I felt like some of it definitely, like you, I heard you talking about like wishing it would have pushed it more. I agree with that. I feel like it was not gory enough. Obviously, the cheese grater was honestly the most disappointing part. I was like, that was it. Come on now, fuck her up with
Yeah.
it. But I was pretty disappointed by that one. And I remember because Braden really liked it. He gave it like 4.5 out of 5. And I gave it a 4 and I was like being nice with it. I was
Yeah.
like, well, I'm going to. Like it was it was cute. But then I was just like, fuck. But I like it a lot more now. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times since that theater watch. But it just sucks. I hate that feeling. And I feel like I do that for almost every movie recently. I walk in being like, I'm going to love this. And then you leave and you're just like, what's up with me? Why don't I like movies?
Yeah. Well, and I think, yeah, we just get, you know, the anticipation, obviously the trailers. So you're probably doing yourself a big favor by not watching the Long Legs trailer. You know, because I think that kind of stuff can sort of, you know, it just builds it up. It builds up the hype within yourself, and then the community starts talking about it. And, you know, maybe you see a few people that are like, oh my God, this is amazing. So it heightens it even more before you go and watch the movie. And yeah, I mean, I think with Evil Dead, there's not a bad movie in the bunch. And I agree, just like you, I've watched it, you know, a few times since. I went out and bought it like the very first day it came out. I mean, I'm ride or die with with Evil Dead. And I have enjoyed it more as I've watched it more, for sure. But I do think that 2013 movie set the bar like so high for anyone else to come in that I think the only way is to just keep on pushing it a little bit further. But man, that team, that Rob Tappert, Bruce Campbell, and Sam Raimi, when they, you know, hand that franchise off to somebody, they know that it's in competent hands and they've not made one bad movie yet. So that's pretty awesome, you know? And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why I really loved Thanksgiving, is because I didn't have very many expectations and it kind of blew me away. What do you think about Thanksgiving, Destiny?
Unfortunately, it was another one that I kind of, like I didn't.
You were hyped?
I was a little bit, and that's something I've really tried to mind people saying like how amazing everything is. I've tried to really like take it with a grain of salt, because I'm the kind of person, like, I just get excited. A trailer comes out. Usually I'm the first, like, I'm there. I'm like counting down the minutes at work, waiting to watch a trailer. And so everyone's talking about it. Then I'm excited, and I buy into the hype, and then people are talking about it. And watching Thanksgiving, I didn't see it in theaters, waited, and then I watched it, and I was like, damn, like, some of it, don't get me wrong, like, there's definitely some parts that were shocking. There's definitely a kill that involved a pole that I was just like, Oh my god. But overall, I did call the killer. I was pretty proud of myself because usually
Ah,
I'm not good at stuff like that. And I
yeah,
usually don't try to, but I was just like, I'm watching you. And I was right.
yeah,
Um, but overall, like I thought it was fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. But, will I watch it during the holidays? Of course. This will definitely be throw it on during November because I love holiday horror. I said Christmas
yeah,
earlier. I just love holiday horror, period. So I'll definitely
yeah.
watch it. And maybe with more watches, I'll grow to love it more. I think I just bought into the hype too much.
Do you think there's a pretty big potential there for John Carver to be, one of the new icons moving forward here?
I think so. I really liked the way he moved. There's something about
Mm-hmm.
it that was so because like physically when you look at him, it doesn't look like super like intimidating, it's not like this Tyler Main like 6'9" guy like
Yeah,
looming over you or anything. He's just like a normal sized man. But the
yeah,
way he moves, I remember specifically a shot in the trailer and it's like when he's kind of walking through the hallway with the axe and he's swinging it and he's like
yeah,
swinging it down at the camera. I was like, he looks terrifying in this scene. So I think there is potential. The whole cat scene, I see a lot of people talking about in the comments. The cat scene, that was probably like my favorite scene of the movie. I thought that was so cute. And if you do something like that, like you're gonna solidify like a good like audience because people love shit like that. People love when you're
yeah.
nice to animals, especially like a villain. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and it's the personality, right? So it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
cool that even though this character's wearing a mask, that there is a certain level of personality there. I totally agree with what you're saying about like the movement. I think the mask is totally genius. Not only does it actually look like the John Carver that's a real folk hero in that part of the country that, most of the rest of like I didn't know about John Carver, but it's kind of cool. You get a little bit of a history lesson snuck in there. And then you have this like, I mean, pretty close to the same sort of feeling that like a Michael Myers mask gives you, where you're left to interpret the emotion behind it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then, I mean, I just thought with, Thanksgiving, it's so much fun. Like it takes the gory stuff seriously enough. Still has some like holy shit moments, of course, like you're talking about with the pole. That is gnarly. But then also, yeah, these lighthearted, like, yeah, when I saw Thanksgiving in the theater and he like feeds the cat and goes to pet it, like everyone's like, oh, like a
Aww.
killer with a
It's
heart,
like
right?
when he
Like
just like murders someone's like, oh my god, maybe
he's
he
got
is
principles,
good.
right?
Yeah, he has morals,
He's
and I respect that.
yeah. He's only after the people that fucked up his life, right? So everyone else gets a free pass. Well, I guess unless they're in the truck with the pole. But that
Yeah,
was
that was an
accidental.
accident. Things
Yeah.
happen.
And a really good, I
Yeah.
thought one fun thing that Thanksgiving did is it sort of reminded me, slashers can be you get a group of teenager or, 20 somethings playing teenagers, and you just get that really fun kind of almost Friday the 13th feel where it's like, yeah, I don't need everyone to be like so well grounded and all that, but just for it to be fun and for it to like move things along nicely. Like that's just kind of part and parcel for me when it comes to slashers. I don't know. Do you like that kind of like fun feel, or do you want it to be a little more like, grounded and a little more, dark when it comes to that?
I think with slashers, like I do like fun. Like I love
Mm.
like with Thanksgiving, I will say I did like the characters. That was something I didn't really have a problem with. I thought everyone was fine. And Addison Rae, like, she's a TikToker, like whatever, blah blah blah. I was really excited to see her in this movie, and I don't think she disappoints. The marketing I thought was so much fun with
Hmm.
her, and so watching it, I thought she was great.
Yeah, I didn't even know who she was. After I saw the movie, somebody was like, "Isn't that girl from TikTok?" And I'm like, "You're talking to somebody who's like way too old to even know what you're talking about." Like I know what TikTok is, but I'm sort of like, I don't know. But yeah, she was really damn good, and I think she's one of those that has been in a couple like what she was in, like He's All That. She was in a
Yes.
couple of these like Hallmark kind of movies where it's like you sort of
Uh-huh.
like get your chops a little bit, but she's very believable, as this teenage character. in Thanksgiving. I think like all of those characters, like they all felt like real friends to me. That's probably one of the things that helped like elevate that film watching experience for me. That a lot of times now that when they churn out these movies, you're like, oh, they got a bunch of pretty people that can't really act. But in Thanksgiving, I was like, everyone's got like a unique look. They're all, you know, attractive in their own different way, and they're having a hell of a time together.
Yeah,
And you got the sexiest man alive in Patrick Dempsey. So how can you go wrong, right?
I voted for him for sure. Sexiest man alive.
Sexiest man alive is 60. How about it? There's hope for me yet.
And,
you know,
he's not bad looking. I'm not, you know, but I'm like sexiest though. But it was Blake Shelton one year. It was literally Blake Shelton. Yeah. I'm like, y'all are fucking high. There's no way.
Yeah, there's a certain group of people that probably do that voting. You know what I mean?
They all live around me, apparently. Just
maybe.
I gotta get.
You're out in Texas.
We gotta talk.
Is that?
Yes. Yeah. I am. Unfortunately, yeah.
Hey, it's all right. Arizona's not much different, really. You know.
I'll be there soon. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Are you coming out for any of the cons or anything like that?
Well, so I fly out there at the end of this month. We are talking about going to Mad Monster because it's in July, and then but it's in like middle of July, I believe. And I was like, you know, I'd rather come out there for 4th of July when Braden's whole family is going to be there. So we're going to miss it, unfortunately. We went last year, though, and it was so much fun. Went to Mad Monster out there. It was great.
It was amazing. Yeah. I saw you guys there, but that was like a month before I started my YouTube journey. It was actually a big day for me because it was like the day that I decided to become an associate producer on It's Me, Billy Chapter 2. And I got to meet Dave McCrae and introduce myself as his newest associate producer, and also tell him I'm starting my own channel. It's my wife, Kate, was basically like, if you're going to do this and you're going to invest in this movie, like you need to take the full plunge. You need to like stop talking about it and just start your own channel and like become a part of this, a bigger part of this community. So super thankful for her for pushing me. But I remember I saw you guys there because I started watching Braden like maybe a month before Halloween Ends came out. I was like catching up on all his Halloween reviews and everything. And so when I saw you guys there, I was like, oh, Kate, that's Braden Timmons. And she's like, who? And I'm like, he's like this big guy on YouTube. And then, you know, that was it. Just saw you guys like walk by a couple times. And then I, you know, bumped into him at like press screenings and H45 and all that, but really didn't get to like talk to him until he was on the show last week. So it was cool to actually kind of pick his brain a little bit about everything. Now, do you know, with his filmmaking and everything like that, do you play a role there? Do you travel out for any of those shoots, or are you, you know, there is kind of his own private producer to tell him when he needs to clean stuff up?
Well, you know, he does send me stuff, and there's definitely been times where I've been like, no, don't like that.
That's good.
And so I help out a little bit like that.
Yeah.
But I was supposed to be there for the last one. Unfortunately, I was not able to make it. Hopefully we'll be in the second one because I do want to be a part of it. We had a whole plan for me what I was going to do in it. So not yet. I want to, though. We've talked about it so many times. Chad came back. Yeah, I've supposed to have been on many sets. My problem was I was afraid of flying, so that really stopped me a lot.
Yeah.
And now that I am flying, I don't have an excuse. This time, my past time, I had to get dental work done. Sorry about it. Sorry, in my teeth. So I did have to miss, unfortunately. It is important. I need them. So hopefully the next one, no dentist appointments.
Yeah. Hey, they say, you know, the doctors say that having good teeth health can increase your lifespan by about 15 years. So that's big time, you know. Get it done while you're young, you know. Absolutely.
Literally.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and is this, had to come back for this question. How did you know I was going to ask that question, Chad? That's amazing. Are you a mind reader?
Something, all right.
All right. Well, you know what? I feel like I've kind of held you on here a little long, but it's been awesome getting to know you, Destiny. I've watched you from afar in the chat so many times. and just getting to know you and Braden through like, you know, through those streams and everything. It's awesome to finally, you know, bring you guys on one at a time and get to know you a bit. You know, maybe we'll bump into each other somewhere along the line. You never know. But yeah, we'll have to have you guys on, you know, here in the future. I'd love to know what you think of Terrifier 3 once you've watched that one. And I think it would be really cool to bring you back on maybe a little closer to Christmas, and we can chat about Christmas slashers because I really love them too. And I think that could be a fun little segment. You know,
Yes.
not to step on anyone else that might want to have you on their channel, but come on, it's the Davey Death Ray channel we're talking about here.
No, that sounds amazing. I'm so there for that. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hope the crazy Texas weather is nice to you these next few weeks. I know it's been kind of gnarly out there. And yeah, you know, the more you fly, the more you'll get comfortable. You know what I tell myself when I'm on a plane and things start getting bumpy is I say, I'm more likely to die in my car just driving like 10 miles down the road than I am to pass away on this plane. And that's what, you know, keeps me feeling a little sane on flights. Or take an edible and just fall asleep. I don't know.
You know, the last time I took an edible, got on a plane, I literally, like, obviously I'm flying. I literally felt like I was floating out of my seat. And I was like, and I was just laughing about it. And I was like, I don't know if I like this or not. But I couldn't panic about it. So that was good. Because I have anxiety. And so I was like, please don't panic on this plane. And I was fine. But I was just like, I'm literally floating out of my seat. What the fuck is going on? So,
yeah.
But
it's wild. Yeah, hell yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Destiny. Really appreciate you coming on the channel here and having a chat with us on Late Night with the Davey. Guys, you know where to find Destiny, right? She's got like 1,000,000 subscribers over followers on Instagram, but I've got her links down in the description below. If you aren't yet following her, you should, and you should check out Back from the Dead and Fear Freaks. Back from the Dead is on Good Real Hunting, and Fear Freaks is on Braden Timmons' channel. At least, you know what, once a week, unless you're a little too tipsy.
Yep, sounds like me.
I got to give you a little bit of shit. I got to, you know, I play nice though. All right. Well, thank you so much, Destiny.
So much.
Have a great rest of your night. And yeah, we can't wait to see you again.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on. Y'all have a good night.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the closing act, you know, Jerry Springer's final thoughts here on Late Night with the Davey edition number 4. Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing here in the chat, just talking it up the whole time. I try my best to play that, you know, walk that tightrope of being interviewer and also paying attention to you guys there in the chat. So really appreciate everyone just keeping the conversation going over there. You know, especially seeing, you know, Frank from Slaughter and Lamb Movie Podcast hanging out for a bit. Cody from Dude Who Loves Movies is still here. Brett's hanging out. Man, everyone, Raymond, Blu-ray, Big Rod. I must have missed you coming in, Big Rod. How's it going? Entertainment is underrated. Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, that's an interesting one, Rod. Let's bring that one up. Entertainment is underrated. Yeah, I mean, I think that, gosh, we can just be so picky, right, about stuff that if it doesn't meet all our expectations and all of that. But I do think, you know, it is good to remember, like Destiny had brought up about Terrifier, you know, there's a group of people that worked really hard on this project. You know, even if there's a movie or a show or whatever that, you know, you don't enjoy as far as like, you know, you're not the audience for it. I still think it's important to kind of, you know, be mindful and have enough like nuance and awareness to know that a lot of people are really working hard on it. And, you know, there must be an audience if they keep on making it. Right. So I think that's an interesting point there to bring that up. And yeah, I mean, we're so, you know, captivated by our phones right now that I think that maybe that's another reason why people kind of poo-poo certain entertainment, you know, as of late. But yeah, guys, we are just closing things out here. Just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions or anything like that. Look at this. Gavin says, just make sure you watch a compilation video of airplane crashes when you're sitting in the terminal. That's the way to do it. And, I didn't want to bring this up, when Destiny was on, because it sounded like the edible kind of worked for her. I try not to be under the influence when I'm on a plane because it makes me way more scared. Like one time I had an edible before getting on a plane and I was freaking out, and I'm not usually like that when I get on a plane. I'm usually pretty chill. But yeah, one time I was on a flight back, coming back from Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. And man, we must have had like 100-foot drop, couple 100-foot drop, some sort of weird thing happened. It was the freakiest moment I've ever had in a plane. And all the other experiences have been pretty all right. Davey, I'm worried about your back. It must be painful carrying late night YouTube. I appreciate that, Gavin. I appreciate it so much. It is awesome though to have this spot here. And it's only 9 o'clock out here in Arizona where I'm at. So it's really not that bad being up late. And, when the idea popped up in my head about doing this, I knew that, even with work coming up the next day or whatever, that it was still worth it, because I know that myself as an audience member would want something a little bit later in the evening to watch. I love it when people go on live late during the week. So yeah, man, I'm willing to bear that brunt. And if it gets too heavy, I can always put on a back brace, because I'm an old man and I do own one of those. Let's see here. I got addicted to the flight channel on YouTube. It's all actual real lifetime crashes. It was making me mental, but I could not stop watching. Vanderhoff, I have a similar thing where I watch the like police body cam videos. A lot of them are like out of Wisconsin and like Florida. And then I watch a lot of police interrogation videos. Those are really interesting. I'm trying to remember the channels right now. There's like ECW, or EWC or EWU Explore With Us or something like that. Yeah, that's what it's called. And there's a whole bunch of these really interesting interrogation videos that I cannot pull myself away from. And it's, the crimes can be pretty horrific. So there's part of me that I'm like, dude, why are you watching this? And then the other part, I'm just fascinated with how the detectives are able to, get the truth out of these people and solve the case, Next week's Late Night with the Davey is going to be a great too. Man, next week, thank you for reminding me, Raymond. I've got to bring that up. I would be remiss to not mention that, guys. Next week, we've got Christian Hanna from Planet CHH on the show, as well as Ken and Ashley from Sledgehammer Horror. So we've got some big guns coming onto the show next week. I'm super pumped for that. I've been watching Planet CHH for years now, and Christian it's just like hanging out with a friend, right? There's something about just how it's not like he's nonchalant, but just how casual and comfortable he is. I really like I think one of the first times I DM'd him, I was like, where are you from? Because you've got this interesting accent. I thought he was from like New York or something like that. And he's like, oh, I'm from Louisiana, and it's just this weird way that I talk. But it's like this very charming, voice that he has and demeanor about him. Certainly an inspiration for, what we do here as far as trying to just create that comfortable atmosphere. Obviously, I've got a little bit of a different personality, but always want to make you guys feel like, we're just a bunch of friends hanging out. So really looking forward to that. I've popped up on Sledgehammer Horror's channel a few times here lately and getting to know Ken and Ashley a little bit better. I was actually on their live stream last night where we talked about our top 10 kills in the Final Destination franchise. Dice Roland was on that chat as well. That was a lot of fun. We got off topic quite a bit, but everyone was a barrel of laughs the entire time. So really love Ken and Ashley over there. Looking forward to having those guys on the show. And yeah, guys, if there's somebody that you want to see on the show that maybe they're just in a blind spot, like I said, there's a lot of YouTubers that are doing things that I'd probably really love. And for whatever reason, I might not find them, until YouTube finally decides to show me what they're doing on their channel. So, point me in the right direction. I know, Gavin, you've reached out already about the guys over there at Horror Dads. I'm going to check out a little bit more of their stuff and reach out to them. We've pretty much got June booked. I think I need to book the last week, but we're already moving into July. So let me know and we'll get everything cooking here. I mean, really, that's probably going to be the biggest challenge moving forward with the show is just, booking it, because it's just a one-man show here as far as what goes on in the background. But yeah, really appreciate you guys coming out to and hanging out with us here in the chat for Late Night with the Davey. Please remember to click that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet. If you're watching this after the fact, go ahead and leave a comment, ask a question, just help me destroy that algorithm, because we cover all sorts of stuff here at the channel. And really the only way we're going to succeed is with your guys' support. You guys have been so amazing. I started doing this in August. I think I really, pushed the pedal to the metal in December when I put out my Black Christmas reviews, where I reviewed a movie in that series every week. That was pretty tough. I mean, there's only 3, but it was tough to edit it and all that stuff. Blah, blah, blah. But really felt like the channel has been gaining some momentum here in 2024. And it's all because of you guys. So thank you so much for supporting the channel. I love you guys so much. Really appreciate y'all. And until next time, I've been and will continue being Davey Death Ray. Take care.